My mom secretly took out loans in my name. Now she expects me to pay them off. The discovery that changed everything. I never thought my own mother would betray me like this. I always believed that, no matter what, she had my best interests at heart. But as it turns out, I was nothing more than a financial safety net for her, someone she could use and discard when it was convenient. I, 26F, have always had a complicated relationship with my mom. She was a single mother who raised me and my younger brother, Lucas, 23M, after my dad walked out when we were kids. She worked long hours to support us, and I admired her resilience. But she also had a habit of making terrible financial decisions, ones that always seemed to come back to bite us. Growing up, we were always struggling. There were eviction notices on the door, unpaid bills stacking up on the kitchen counter, and endless calls from debt collectors. But my mom always assured me that she had it under control. Now, I realize that was a lie. It all started a few months ago when I applied for a car loan. I had finally saved up enough for a down payment and was excited to get my first car without needing a cosigner. But when I sat down with the loan officer at the bank, my excitement quickly turned into horror. I had $35,000 in outstanding debt in my name. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. That can't be right, I stammered. The banker pulled up the report. Multiple accounts had been opened under my name. Credit cards, personal loans, even a payday loan I had never seen before. My credit score, which I had worked hard to build up, was ruined. I knew, without a doubt, that I had never taken out any of those loans. But there was only one person in my life who could have done this. My mom. The confrontation. I went home that night feeling like I was going to be sick. I kept trying to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, there had been some sort of mistake. Maybe it was identity theft from some random scammer. But deep down, I knew. I found my mom sitting on the couch watching TV, completely unaware that her world was about to come crashing down. I stood in front of her, my hands shaking. "Mom," I said, "I need you to tell me the truth." She looked at me confused. "What are you talking about?" I threw the credit report down on the table. These loans, these credit cards, all in my name. Tell me you didn't do this." Her face paled, and for a moment she was silent. Then she sighed, rubbing her temples like she was the one who had been wronged. "I was going to tell you," she said finally. I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest. "When? After my credit was completely destroyed? After I spent years paying off a debt I didn't even know I had?" She had the nerve to look offended. "I needed that money, okay? It was for the family. You wouldn't understand." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you just took out loans in my name? Without asking me?" She waved a hand dismissively. "I thought I'd be able to pay them off before you noticed. But things got tight." "Got tight?" My voice cracked. "You took out thousands of dollars, Mom. What did you even spend it on?" She hesitated. Then she muttered, "Bills, groceries, things for the house." But I wasn't stupid. I had seen the way she spent money on designer bags, expensive hair treatments, and nights out with her friends. I felt like I was going to explode. "You ruined my credit, and you expect me to just be okay with this?" That's when she said the words that made me lose all hope. "You're my daughter," she said, standing up. "Family takes care of each other. I took care of you your whole life. Now it's your turn to take care of me." The fallout. I left the house that night. I couldn't even look at her. I drove around aimlessly for hours, trying to process what had just happened. I had always known my mom was bad with money, but I never thought she would steal from me. And now I had no idea what to do. I was drowning in debt that wasn't mine, and my own mother expected me to just accept it. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let this slide. The next day, I started looking into my options. I filed a police report for identity theft, but when they asked if I wanted to press charges, I hesitated. Could I really send my own mother to jail? I was torn. My anger told me she deserved it, but another part of me, the little girl who still wanted to believe her mother loved her, felt sick at the idea. I decided to talk to a lawyer before making a decision. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let my mom manipulate me into paying off her debt. She had already taken enough from me. Update 1. My mom is playing the victim. After confronting my mom, I stopped speaking to her. I needed space, but she didn't take that well. She started calling every family member we have, telling them that I was abandoning her and ruining her life over a little money. My grandmother called me in tears, begging me to forgive her and saying that mothers make mistakes. My uncle told me I was being selfish and that family handles things privately. No one seemed to understand that this wasn't a mistake. This was fraud, theft, and it wasn't like she had come to me in desperation and asked for help. She had stolen my identity behind my back. I told my family that until my mom admitted what she did and found a way to fix it, I wasn't speaking to her. Now, she's sending me guilt-tripping messages, saying I've broken her heart and that she doesn't deserve this treatment from her own daughter. But does she deserve my forgiveness? Because right now, I don't think she does. Update 2. My mom makes a shocking move, and it involves my brother. If I thought my mom couldn't stoop any lower, I was wrong. After weeks of ignoring her calls and refusing to engage with her manipulative messages, she did something that completely blindsided me. She dragged my younger brother, Lucas, into this mess. I woke up one morning to a panicked call from Lucas. "OP, you need to check your credit report," he said, his voice shaking. "Mom, she did it to me too." I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I pulled up Lucas's credit report while we were on the phone. And sure enough, he had multiple loans taken out in his name, totaling over $15,000. Unlike me, Lucas had never even built his credit yet. He was just starting his life, fresh out of college, with plans to rent his first apartment. And now, thanks to our own mother, his credit was ruined before he even had a chance. I was livid. I knew my mom was selfish. I knew she had financial issues, but I never thought she would go after her own son too. Lucas was devastated. He had always been the more forgiving one, the one who saw the good in people no matter what. But now, he was finally seeing what I had been trying to tell him. Mom wasn't going to change. The confrontation. Round 2. I told Lucas to meet me at my mom's house that evening. We were going to confront her together. When we walked in, my mom was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee like nothing had happened. She looked up, surprised to see both of us. "Lucas! Oh, what's with the serious faces?" she said with a nervous laugh. I threw Lucas's credit report onto the table. "Explain this." Her smile disappeared. "Mom," Lucas said, his voice breaking, "how could you do this to me?" She sighed, rubbing her temples. "Oh, not this again. Not this again." I snapped. "Are you seriously acting like this isn't a big deal? You stole from both of us." She scoffed. "I didn't steal from you. I borrowed, and I was going to pay it back." I couldn't believe my ears. "Then why didn't you? Why is my credit ruined? Why is Lucas's credit destroyed before he's even started his adult life?" Lucas, usually the quiet one, finally lost it. "Do you even care what you've done to us?" he shouted. "I can't even rent an apartment now. I was about to sign a lease next month, and now my credit is trash." She had the audacity to look offended. "You're being dramatic," she said. "It's just money. You'll both recover. I raised you. I took care of you your whole lives. Now it's your turn to take care of me." There it was again, that same excuse. That's when I realized something. She wasn't sorry, not even a little. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. She genuinely believed that her children's financial futures belonged to her. I grabbed Lucas's hand and turned to leave. "We're done, Mom." She jumped up from her seat. "What does that mean?" "It means we're not paying off your debt. It means we're not letting you ruin our lives. and it means we're not speaking to you until you take responsibility for what you did." Her face contorted with rage. "You can't do this to me. You're my children. You owe me." Lucas turned back one last time. "You don't deserve us." And with that, we walked out. Update 3. The family drama explodes. My grandmother gets involved. Cutting off our mom wasn't easy. Lucas moved in with me temporarily, since he couldn't rent his own place anymore, and we both started working with a lawyer to dispute the fraudulent loans. But just when we thought we had some control over the situation, our grandmother found out. Grandma had always been the matriarch of the family, the one everyone listened to, the one who kept the peace. And apparently, our mom had gone crying to her, twisting the story to make herself look like the victim. One afternoon, I got a call from Grandma. "Opie, I just talked to your mother. What is going on?" I sighed. "Grandma, I don't want to talk about this." "Well, I do," she said firmly. "Your mother is devastated. She says you and Lucas abandoned her over a small financial mistake." I clenched my jaw. "Small financial mistake." "She told me you're overreacting, that you're punishing her for doing what she had to do to keep the family afloat." I took a deep breath. "Grandma, do you know how much debt she put in my name?" She hesitated. "Well, she didn't say exact numbers, but $35,000. And Lucas, she ruined his credit before he even had a chance to build it." Silence. "She never told me that," Grandma finally said. "Of course she didn't," I said bitterly, "because she wants everyone to think she's the victim." Grandma sighed. "What do you want me to do?" "I don't need you to do anything, Grandma. I just need you to understand that we're not going to pretend this didn't happen." There was another pause. Then, to my shock, Grandma said, "I'll handle it." I didn't know what that meant, but I had a feeling that my mom was about to regret lying to the one person in the family who could actually put her in her place. Update 4. I confront my mom again, and things get ugly. I wasn't sure what Grandma meant when she said she'd handle it. But 2 days later, I got my answer. My phone rang, and it was my mom. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. The second I picked up, she exploded. "How dare you bring Grandma into this?" she screeched. "I cannot believe you would humiliate me like this in front of my own mother." I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "You humiliated yourself," I said coldly. "Maybe if you had told Grandma the truth instead of lying, she wouldn't have been so disappointed in you." I had never heard my mother this angry. She ranted about how family handles things privately, and how airing our dirty laundry to outsiders was a betrayal. I laughed bitterly. "Grandma isn't an outsider. She's your mother, the same way you're supposed to be mine." She went silent for a moment, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she was about to apologize. But of course, that's not what happened. Instead, she lowered her voice and went straight for manipulation. "Do you really want to do this, Opie? Do you really want to ruin our family over some money?" I took a deep breath. "It's not some money, Mom. It's my entire financial future. And it's not just me. You did this to Lucas, too." She scoffed. "Oh, come on. You'll both recover. You two are young. You have time to fix this." That was it. That was the moment I knew there was no saving this relationship. She had no remorse, no regret. She had never planned to fix it because, in her mind, we were her children, which meant she had a right to our lives, our futures, our money. And she was never going to change. I let out a humorless laugh. "You know what, Mom? You've made this decision really easy for me." "What's that supposed to mean?" she snapped. I took a deep breath. "It means I'm filing charges." Update 5. My lawyer gives me an option I never expected. I hung up on my mom and immediately called my lawyer. She had advised me against pressing charges before, saying that identity theft cases between family members are tricky and that it could drag on for years. But after my mom's complete lack of remorse, I wanted justice. I told her, I don't care if it takes time. I want to go after her legally. But then my lawyer told me something I never expected. She had done some digging, and this wasn't the first time my mom had committed financial fraud. Turns out my mom had taken out loans in her own mother's name years ago, but Grandma had paid them off quietly to avoid a scandal. When I told Lucas, he nearly lost it. She's a freaking serial scammer, he said in disbelief. I felt sick. This wasn't some desperate mistake. She had been doing this for years, and we were just the latest victims. That's when my lawyer suggested something else. Instead of pressing criminal charges right away, we could sue her in civil court for damages. That way, we could potentially get some of the money back. And if she refused to pay, then we'd have grounds for a criminal case. It was a strategic move, and it was time to put my mom in checkmate. Final update: the lawsuit and the aftermath. The moment my mom was served with legal papers, she lost her mind. She texted me paragraphs about how she couldn't believe her own children were suing her, how we were selfish and ungrateful, and how we were ruining her life. But my favorite text? You are no longer my daughter. I hope you're happy. I didn't respond. She could disown me all she wanted. It didn't change the fact that she was a thief. The case dragged on for months, but Lucas and I won. She was ordered to pay us back every penny she stole. And when she couldn't, that's when criminal charges finally caught up to her. My mom went to jail for financial fraud. And do you know what? I didn't feel guilty, because in the end, I wasn't the one who ruined our family. She did. Final thoughts. Was I wrong? This has been the most painful experience of my life, but I stand by my decision. Some people say family is everything, but what happens when family betrays you? Would you have pressed charges like I did? Or do you think I went too far? Either way, I finally have my financial freedom, and that is worth more than any family bond. Story 2. I refused to let my parents move in with me after they gave my college fund to my brother. The beginning of a betrayal. I always believed that parents were supposed to love their children equally, that they were supposed to support them, guide them, and make sure they had an equal shot at success. But if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that some parents have favorites. And I was never the favorite. I, 29F, grew up with my younger brother, Ryan, 26M. Our parents weren't rich, but they weren't struggling either. They always talked about how they had been saving up for years to make sure we could both go to college. When I was in high school, I worked my ass off. I studied late into the night. I got straight A's, and I even secured a partial scholarship to my dream university. My parents always told me they were so proud of me and that with my college fund, I wouldn't have to take out loans. I believed them. But when the time came to pay my tuition, my parents sat me down at the kitchen table with guilty looks on their faces. "Sweetheart," my mom said gently, "we need to talk about your college fund." I remember the sinking feeling in my stomach. My dad sighed and looked everywhere except at me. "We had to use it." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, had to use it?" They exchanged a glance, and then my mom, with the fakest sympathetic voice I had ever heard, said, "We gave it to Ryan." The golden child. Apparently my entire college fund, every penny they had saved for me, was given to my younger brother. Why? Because Ryan didn't get into any good schools. While I was studying my ass off, Ryan was goofing around, partying, and barely scraping by. He had no scholarships, no financial aid, and no backup plan. So my parents gave him my future. I sat there in stunned silence as my mom kept talking, saying how Ryan was going through a rough time and that they wanted to give him another chance. "He's your brother," she said. "You don't want him to fail, do you?" I was shaking with rage. "So what about me?" I demanded. "You told me my whole life that money was for my future. What am I supposed to do now?" My dad had the audacity to say, "You're smart. You'll figure something out." And that was that. My parents robbed me of my future and expected me to be okay with it, struggling while Ryan thrived. With no financial support, I had to take out massive student loans. While Ryan went off to college completely debt-free, I had to work 2 jobs just to afford food. Ryan partied through college, barely passing his classes, while I was breaking myself to stay afloat. Whenever I brought up how unfair it was, my parents would sigh and say, "Stop holding a grudge. Family supports each other." Yeah, except they only ever supported him. But you know what? I made it. I graduated with honors, got a high-paying job in tech, and worked my way up. Meanwhile, Ryan dropped out after 2 years, burned through the college fund, and ended up moving back home. They stole my future for nothing. The tables turn. Fast forward to now. I'm 29, successful, and completely debt-free after years of grinding. I recently bought my first home, a beautiful 3-bedroom house with a gorgeous backyard. Meanwhile, my parents, they're broke. My dad lost his job 2 years ago, and my mom's health has been declining. They're struggling to pay their mortgage, and Ryan still lives at home, unemployed. Then, last month, I got the call. My mom, in the sweetest voice, said, "Sweetheart, we've been thinking since you have that big house all to yourself. Maybe we could come live with you for a little while, just until we get back on our feet." I felt like I had been slapped. The same parents who stole my future, who forced me into debt while handing Ryan everything on a silver platter, were now begging me for help. And do you know what I said? No. The fallout. My mom started crying, saying, "But we're family." My dad got angry, accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. Even Ryan, who has never worked a single day in his life, had the nerve to say, "Wow, sis, you're really going to let mom and dad struggle after everything they did for us?" I laughed. "Everything they did for us." I repeated, "They did nothing for me. They stole from me and gave you everything. And now that you've wasted it, you expect me to fix it." I told them that they had made their choice years ago. They chose Ryan. Now they could live with the consequences. I hung up and blocked them. The aftermath. My extended family is now divided. Half of them agree with me, saying my parents got what they deserved. The other half says I'm being heartless and that I should forgive and forget because they're still my parents. But where was their forgiveness when they stole from me? Where was their support when I was drowning in debt? They made their choice, and I made mine. Final question. Am I the villain? Some people say I should be the bigger person, that I should help them because family is everything. But I don't see it that way. They taught me a lesson years ago. Ryan comes first. Now, they can go ask him for help. Do you think I was wrong? Would you have let them move in? Or did they get exactly what they deserved? Let me know, because I don't feel guilty. Not even a little.